A new chapter in America's story, a great awakening spreading around the world, a return to God, and the values that made this nation not only great but good, loving one another, a cleansing of corruption, a culture of courage and hope, defending our children, restoring prosperity, honoring life, peace through strength, fighting for truth and goodness. In short, a return to the good life, the abundant life, to create, to build, to protect, and pass on. Welcome to the Good Life Podcast with Dean Wilson. Born and raised in Southern California, sharpened by a decade in Texas, Dean began on Wall Street, then built businesses, served in ministry, stepped boldly into media, and championed transformational affordable housing initiatives in our country's most challenged communities. Dean is a man of deep faith, devoted to his family, and committed to the future of this nation. And now, he's living his calling behind the microphone with you. This is the Good Life Podcast, and it begins right now.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dean Wilson. So great to have you with us. What a weekend we had. Long Thanksgiving weekend. The stories just kept coming, it seems like. And so all weekend long, I was kind of following it and making notes. And there's a lot to get to. And they're all actually, I think they're all very meaningful and exciting stories. And so I think it'll be fun today. This program, we're going to pack a lot in. Hopefully we'll give you kind of the essence of all the stories, and we'll dive deeper as we go throughout the week. But I'm so glad you're here. I want to start with the scripture, as we always do, Romans 10:13. And I don't know where you are with your faith, if you have a faith, if you believe in Jesus, if you don't. But I want to start with Romans 10:13. For whoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And so it is a daily gift that we can cherish this salvation in Jesus Christ. And so I just want to say that at the outset. And I want to follow with a quote that kind of ties in with it, and it's from C.S. Lewis. He says, Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important. And I think sometimes, and I think even the scripture talks about, the lukewarm. We really, there's really no, when you think about it, if you step back, and we're all guilty of this, we all kind of fall into the daily life and the routines, and we can get lost in the routines and maybe lose sight of the bigger picture. But when you think about how absolutely stunning this is, this good news, it really isn't something to be lukewarm about. You can either believe it, and if you do, it changes everything. And if you don't, then great, you throw it away. But you can't be halfway in, because it's so stunning, it's so life-changing, it's so significant that it's kind of an all or nothing thing. And so I thought that was a great quote. So Romans 10:13, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. What a great word for today. We've got 3 historical tidbits today we're starting with. I love these. I think you're gonna like them. Here's the first one. Here's the tallest man ever, Robert Wadlow. And he stood 8 feet 11 inches. The bad news is he only lived to 22. He had some kind of a pituitary thing. We can keep going through the pictures here. There, look at that. I think those are like 5 to 6 feet tall people.
Wow.
So there's Robert, and then there's one more. Yeah, there he is with his brothers. It's a tall guy, and he dressed sharp. If you look at this, I don't know who did the clothes, but he dressed sharp. So there's the tallest man in the world. Secondly, 3 slides. This is a wild story. This is a guy who, as you can read here, he was a bank teller on the left. He was 20 years old. He's a bank teller. He walked out of the bank with $215,000 in 1969 in cash, which is equivalent to about $1.7 million in today's money. Puts it in a paper bag, walks out at the end of the shift, and disappears. No guns, no disguises. He moves to the Boston suburbs, changes his name, marries, raises a daughter. He calls himself Thomas Rendell now, and lives for 51 years, maintaining the illusion that he was Robert Thomas Rendell. So finally, on his deathbed, he actually tells his family the story. You can go to the next slide. So, and which of course they researched because it was such a fascinating unsolved crime. And when investigators did connect the dots, it was confirmed that Conrad and Rendell ultimately were confirmed to be the same man. So can you believe that? 51 years living with a changed name and a new life, and then he tells his family on his deathbed. Crazy story.
Wow.
Last one. George Washington's teeth. I'm sure that you haven't thought about George Washington's teeth until right now. Here they are. I think he had 4 pair, from what I'm told. We're all, we grow up with this myth that George Washington's teeth were made of wood. We'll get to that in a second. So here they are. They actually were crafted from a mix of materials: brass, lead, gold, animal teeth, human teeth, and may have been taken from enslaved people. So here's some of the ingredients. You can't put a price tag on horse and cow teeth, and so it's a crazy thing, and actually they were painful to George Washington, and I think they caused him a little bit of embarrassment, or I think there was some level of insecurity with his teeth. Go to the next page. And I think his teeth were bad from like the beginning. They affected his appearance, his speech, and his confidence. So when you see him with this stiff expression, it might be
His teeth.
he's hiding his horse teeth. I don't know. So there, 4 of his denture sets survive today. So your day is now complete that you've heard about George Washington's teeth. Fact of the day. In Utqiagvik, Alaska, the sun went down the other day, and it's not coming back up until January 22nd of 2026. Can you imagine
What?
the depression? Go to the next slide. So yeah, it's true. The northernmost town in the United States, and it experiences the long stretch of darkness because of the Earth's axial tilt. Again, if you want to impress somebody at a party, you can talk about axial tilt. So once the sun dips below the horizon in mid-November, it stays there for roughly 65 days. It's called the polar night. And it still kind of has a deep blue. It's not pitch black the whole time, but it is. So I think that would be challenging. Do you, Mr. Producer, do you agree?
No.
Okay, let's go to the top 15 stories of the day. We're going to move quickly, but these are all good. They really are. So I want to start with the tragedy that we experienced as a country the day before Thanksgiving. 2 National Guard members from West Virginia were shot. One of them killed. One of them still alive and battling for his life. The gunman is this person who immigrated from Afghanistan under Joe Biden. So and he apparently traveled from Washington State to Washington D.C. There's some oddities about it in terms of there were some searches done. As you can see, Sarah Beckstrom, who tragically died. People were searching her name days before which is kind of odd. This seems like this it's been happening more regularly. You can make of it what you will. But anyway, we are praying for the survivor, and we grieve for Sarah's family. As this was being processed by the country over the weekend, immigration once again became, a trending topic, and remigration, and the fact that the Biden administration allowed 76,000 largely unvetted. There's categories of vetting I learned about this weekend. So there was some vetting, but it was very minimal, and it was not the normal vetting that you would see for people coming in from Afghanistan. So 76,000 entered, and you can see all the military equipment we left behind. So it was quite a deal, the Afghanistan exit. Probably not our finest moment as a country, but the 76,000 that came in, it's obviously a concern when something like this happens, because you find yourself asking, who are these people? And this has nothing to do with the 10 or 15 or 20 or more million that came across the border, which we largely have no idea. But these 76,000 in particular, of which this shooter was one, it sparked a new debate about immigration as a whole, legal immigration, as well as, of course, illegal immigration, which has largely come to a standstill since President Trump took office. So let's go to some of President Trump's posts. You're not going to be able to read this very clearly. It's pretty small, but in essence, the president is saying, I will permanently pause migration from third world countries. I'm going to show you those countries in a second. And he's just saying, and I think this seems smart to me. It seems smart to me to say, we just had 20 million, let's call it round number, 20 million. We just had 20 million come in. We don't know who they are, where they are. We got to sort it out. And that's what ICE is doing. That's what this last 10 months has been about. Let's figure that out, and then let's go back to what's wise and what's the best plan for legal immigration. So what's happened right now is there's 19 countries where the president is stopping immigration from these 19. Steve Bannon and others think it should be the whole world we should stop. As of right now, it's these 19 countries. So in the 12 hours, I think this was written right after the shooting, the president paused third world immigration. Obviously, he continues to call for deporting millions of illegal and legal immigrants if they hate America. And he has stopped funding to South Africa for targeting white farmers. So it was an active weekend. It was an active holiday weekend for the president. Here's another post he made. He's quoting here from the Immigration and Nationality Act. You can read it, but he's asserting the privilege that he has as the chief executive as it relates to immigration. And I think he's setting the table to say, and with every incident that happens, I think he gets more serious and more clear about, hey, we got to solve this. And by the way, this is not his fault. I mean, this is a byproduct of an open border, which I'll show you a quote from Stephen Miller in a second, which was very intentional. I mean, you don't accidentally let in 20 million people into the country. Okay. So this was strategic, not accidental. And Trump is cleaning it up. And so I think what he's figuring out is, and why is he doing that? He's doing it to keep you safe. He's doing it so that we don't have any more murders and rapes like we've been reading about, or shooting as we saw the day before Thanksgiving. That's why he's doing it. I always think about, I know you've heard it before, but I'll say it again. You don't lock the doors of your home at night because you hate everybody who's outside. You do it because you love the people that are inside. So this is not about hatred in anybody's heart. And it certainly is not about racism. This is about, you can't have a country and absorb 20 million people and without having significant consequences for the rest of the American people, the civilians that live there. It's just not possible. And so when we see those consequences pile up, and we see murders or rapes or kidnappings or shooting of National Guard, when we see these things happen, yes, it says, hey, we got to solve this. And I think the president is focusing on solving it. And for doing so, for doing that, he'll be called a racist again for the 97th time. I'm so tired of the racism bit. So tired. When before Donald Trump was a Republican, believe me, they weren't calling him a racism. He was in pictures with Jesse Jackson and Don King and all, and and everybody under the sun, Al Sharpton, they loved him, right? He did a lot for the black community. All of a sudden he's a Republican. Okay, he's a racist. And then now he wants to solve this disaster of 20 million people in the country, unvetted murderers, people with extensive criminal history. Oh, he's a racist again. No, he's not. He's trying to clean up the problems caused by the open border, the intentional, strategic open border of the Biden administration. That's why he's doing it. Let's go to the ban on immigration. So here are the 19 countries. So you can read that. So at this point in time, he's saying, okay, immediately after the National Guard shooting, essentially, he put the ban on 19 countries, of which there's no immigration now. And I'm talking about, of course, legal immigration. So here's the quote I referenced from Stephen Miller. He says, the Democrat Party, via the Biden-Harris terrorist administration, devised a scheme to import illegal aliens into the country by the millions, granting them parole, which gives them work permits, which gives them social security numbers, which gives them access to the voting booth, and finally hooking them on welfare, like Hunter Biden hooked on drugs, all with the sole purpose of participating in U.S. elections and ultimately overthrowing the constitutional republic of the United States. Sounds so extreme, doesn't it? No, it's actually not. Again, you don't have to be a brain surgeon. I really don't think you do. You don't have to be Ben Carson. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what's the goal here. The goal is not, oh my goodness, I have such compassion for these 25 million people that just have a tough life and we want them to have a better life. Sorry. No. Nobody believes that. The goal's power. The goal's political power. And if they turn the United States of America into a one-party ruled state like the state of California, we're done, folks. The game's over. That's why we prayed. That's why we worked, and so many of you worked so hard in 2024, even after the disastrous stolen election. And we prayed and we prayed and we prayed and we worked, and Charlie Kirk and the youth movement and all these things, and Hispanics and the African Americans coming Trump's way. This wonderful thing happened, an enormous pushback against this whole, well, we're going to talk about what is a color revolution. We'll talk about that in a second. And by the way, it has nothing to do with color of your skin or anything. We pushed back. A lot of tens of millions pushed back and said, no, the United States of America can't become California or Venezuela. We've seen what happens in socialist, high taxes, less freedom, rampant crime, rampant homelessness, less quality education. I mean, it's just the fruit of the Democratic leadership. It's the fruit, I'm sorry, it's just, these are not opinions. Look at the facts, and they'll come out when Gavin Newsom runs for president, let me tell you. The 20 million they let in, or 10 million, or 15, or 20, or 30, I don't know what the number is. Whatever it is, it was about power. Those are voters. Those are voters. And so there is no concern for the American people. None. There's no concern for how's this going to affect our hospitals? How's this going to affect my child's school? How's this going to affect, zero. No concern about that. They're not thinking about your kid. Let me tell you that right now. They're not thinking about your health care. No. Power. Those are voters. That's what they wanted. Social Security numbers, driver's license numbers. And they can enter the voter's booth. And guess what? That would have been a disaster. And so by the grace of God, we have a reprieve, right? And what this giant of a leader named President Donald Trump, this giant of a leader, is taking it on. And he's saying, I'm going to fight for the American people. And I want to clarify something real quick, because I've heard this. I am a believer in Jesus, a follower of Jesus. My father's a pastor. My grandfather was a pastor. My brother was a pastor. I I've been in the church my entire life. And I want to clarify something, because sometimes Christians, and even ones that I love, that have been friends of mine and are friends of mine, they'll quote scripture. If they're on the social justice train, okay, they'll quote scripture about caring for the least of these, the hungry, the thirsty, the naked. When I was homeless, you took me in. I was a prisoner and you visited me, or you remembered me. I was sick and you visited me. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. They'll take some of these scriptures and they apply them to the government. So if they see, okay, we're deporting people. What a harsh anti-God act. He's heartless. He doesn't care about people. And I've seen some pastors quote these scriptures on their Facebook stories, right? I want to say this, and I want to be very clear. The scripture, this book, it's gotten heavier over the years, I feel like. This book is not written for governments or corporations or businesses. This is written for people. This is a book to me, to you, not to the United States government. I need to care for the poor. I need to think about the sick, the brain injured, the lost, the hungry, that's our job. As followers of Jesus, hands and feet. We're his hands and feet. That's our job. This book's not written to the United States government to care for the poor. We are supposed to care for the poor. So we need to be real clear about that. And part of the problem and why the government has had to get so involved is because the church is actually not doing its job. The people that the book was written for don't think about the poor, the sick, the naked, the prisoner. We really don't in our daily life. I'm not judging you. We're all going to be guilty of that. But this message is for people. It's not a message. And by the way, it's kind of ironic because those same people are the ones who are beating the drum about church and state, right? Separation, church and state. Oh, we can't have. But they're quick to take down that separation when it comes to wanting to quote their favorite scripture passage and why we need to let all the immigrants come in and take care of them. Womb to tomb. Welfare, health benefits, free hospital, free this, free education, free. We're supposed to take care of them, right? The government, not the people. Sometimes I want to reply to one of those Facebook stories and say, well, what are you doing? This is not a book to the United States government. And aren't you a champion of the separation of church and state, by the way? Right? So just a point of clarification, something I'm interested in. Okay, next topic. Are the gloves coming off is the next topic. Are the gloves coming off? Which means a lot of us have seen Tulsi Gabbard. She's been on some of the Sunday shows. They're talking a lot about the Russian collusion story, which was, of course, a lie from the beginning. Barack Obama knew it was a lie, as did others, John Brennan. They propagated it. And, of course, it was intended to impact the election. They then spied on the president. There was total disruption and total malice in their efforts to cripple the incoming president after he did win the election. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Barack Obama, with Nancy Pelosi. We'll get to her in a second. With the January 6th committee. And I can hear you saying, well, they all got pardons. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Because maybe the auto pen's not allowed to pardon people. We're going to see. We'll get to that in a second, too. So I have a sense that the gloves are coming off. And let me tell you what I think about this. When Donald Trump came into office in 2017, he could have gone after Hillary Clinton, clearly, okay? Not only, obviously all the corruption around the election, but you're not allowed to have a private server in your house and have top secret. You and I'd be in jail for that, right? She never was, of course. President Trump did what he thought at the time, and I believe him, was the classy move. We don't go after our political opponents in America, right? Well, So there was nothing, right, in 2017. They meanwhile were planning two ridiculous impeachments to be followed by indictments, to be followed by accusations, trying to bankrupt him, trying to imprison him, going after his entire family. So they weren't playing by the rules. President Trump intentionally didn't go after Hillary Clinton. He didn't. He just wanted to govern. He wanted to get in there and get some stuff done for you and me, right, for the American people. Well, they didn't play by the rules. And he said something very interesting when he was arrested, which, by the way, let's remember, Donald Trump was arrested. And again, I think his assistant's assistant put the paper clips in the wrong drawer. And he's indicted 91 times. I mean, just the craziest. He was arrested. We have mugshots of our former president. Never happened in America before. Insane, right? This is what that level of hatred will do to you. It'll actually mess with you. I mean, Letitia James is not healthy, okay? Made in the image of God. God loves her. I don't think she's just best self. When she's running, her campaign is running on going after a former president or a sitting president. That's not who we are, folks. That's not who we are. I could talk about that for an hour. I'll do a program on that. Obviously Jack Smith, I mean, the whole cast of characters here is crazy. So back to my point. Donald Trump comes in 2017, doesn't go after Hillary Clinton. He made a comment after he was arrested that they have crossed the threshold. Something along those lines, like they have opened the door, or they've opened the can. I mean, I don't know how he said it, but it was something basically like, okay, they've gone there, right? Raided his home, arrested him, all these indictments, crazy. He basically said something during the campaign, well, they've crossed the line. I think he now, because of justice, because of rule of law, because this is not who we are in the United States of America, I think he feels obligated now to go after people that did this. I think he feels obligated to go after the corruption, to whether, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino going after the corruption, Pam Bondi going after the corruption, and there's about 10 different parts of this, silos of corruption, right? And we've been talking about a lot of them. I think the president feels obligated. I think he realizes the left has gone so far. They've crossed the line, and now he's in there for 3 more years. He has got to make this right, and people need to have a reckoning with what they've done, because otherwise they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it. And so I think that when the question is, are the gloves coming off? My answer is, I think so. I think so, which means to me, we're not going to be afraid to take action. We're not going to be afraid to put some people in handcuffs or to bring down some indictments. I mean, obviously, James Comey came down and the judge, voided it, but it's coming back. I think we're going to see it. I think the gloves are coming off. Here we have, and by the way, the reason that I trust this story, you can see the picture there. That's John Solomon. A lot of you know John Solomon. John Solomon might be the most trustworthy and accurate investigative journalist in the country. That is John Solomon. You can trust John Solomon. And so when he's talking about what's going on here, and he's talking about what they're looking at in terms of Obama, in terms of, actual treason, actually trying to overthrow a sitting government. You want to talk about an insurrection. Again, January 6th was the Buffalo Man with the face paint and the horns and a few grandmas being led into the Capitol by 274 IRS or FBI agents in plainclothes. So you have Buffalo Man with the horns, face paint, and a few grandmas being led into the Capitol by 274 FBI agents is essentially what you had. Good. So that's not an insurrection. No guns, no bombs. The only pipe bombs that were planted we'll get to that, not MAGA people, okay? No guns, no bombs, nothing. That's not an insurrection. And by the way, if the Buffalo Man and the grandmas can take over the United States government, we have a whole new set of problems. Okay? I mean, just to be honest, that's actually even more concerning. That wasn't an insurrection. What was an insurrection is what these people did on the left. That's somebody, this is a concerted effort to try to overthrow the will of the people, cripple a duly elected president. That's an insurrection. January 6th was a picnic. And you know, the only reason January 6th got a little out of hand is because of these embedded agents, in my opinion. Where's Ray Epps? I mean, you know, there's a lot of questions still remaining. The January 6th committee the January 6th committee was a dumpster fire. And I don't mean to offend dumpster fires by making that comparison. The January 6th committee was a corrupt dumpster fire. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, the whole lot. And they all got pardons from Otto Penn. Why did Otto Penn pardon them? Because they're guilty. Yeah. Folks, what do you need a preemptive pardon for if you're not guilty? They were guilty. They are guilty as sin. But Otto Penn pardoned them because they're so guilty. That investigation was a sham, a political hit, and it's one of the darkest things I've ever seen happen. They had a Disney producer, I think, producing the video stuff. I mean, crazy what hatred will make you do, right? Did we ever do anything like this against Barack Obama when he was president for 8 years? Nothing. How many impeachments did we have? Barack Obama? 0. How many? Nothing. We let him govern. The man was elected president. I prayed for him the morning after the election with all 5 of my kids. We gathered. Well, there may have only been 4 kids at that point. Whatever the number was. I think we gathered for prayer, prayed for Barack Obama. We don't do this kind of stuff. This J6 stuff, it's absolute garbage, and it's un-American. And so I think the gloves are coming off. Do you want to go to the next? What is the next one? Tulsi. Okay, there's Tulsi Gabbard. They're talking about, and then keep going. I want to get to the Nancy Pelosi story, which I have not looked very much. 240, I think. Call for 240. So another story that's coming out is about Nancy Pelosi. Now, Peter Lynch. I started my career on Wall Street. Many of you know I was in that business for 8 years. I worked for Morgan Stanley. I worked for Prudential, which became Wachovia. Had a interesting and wild ride in that business for 8 years. I was near the Silicon Valley in 1997, 8, 9, like the whole bubble, the dot-coms. I was running around Silicon Valley collecting money to manage for, Indian engineers at these dot-coms that went from nothing to multi-millionaires in 30 seconds when the company went public. It was a very interesting experience. But anyways, Peter Lynch was one of the gurus of Wall Street. We all read his book. I think it was called Beating the Street. Peter Lynch was a guru. Nancy Pelosi makes Peter Lynch not look like he doesn't know anything about the market. Because Nancy Pelosi, it turns out, is a stock genius. And I am not overstating this. Nancy Pelosi, you should have her manage your money. Nancy Pelosi is a freaking genius in the stock market. It's unbelievable. She's outperforming the S&P by like thousands of percentage points. She's outperforming the index. You have a mutual fund or a money manager? No. Nancy is 10 times, 100 times the returns you're getting. I can guarantee you. She is a stock genius. And so I think the question is she a stock genius because of information she gathered because she had inside information? Now, I think it's worth asking how these people, how Paul Pelosi and Nancy Pelosi could be absolute stock geniuses, not like narrowly outperforming the indexes. We're talking like you can't believe how rich they got in her time of public service. And Paul, I don't know what was happening with the hammer and the underwear. I don't know. I still to this day I don't understand what happened with the hammer and the underwear. But Paul apparently, so either they're stock geniuses beyond anything we've ever seen, or there may have been inside information. Now Martha Stewart went to prison, as you can remember, for something way smaller than this, way smaller. So again, if you're the Department of Justice, if you're Pam Bondi, if you're President Trump, I think you have to look at this. She hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking about, and specifically related to industries where she had power. Something doesn't smell right. It could be interesting. She may want to stock up on vodka. No, that's a bad comment. I have a drinking problem, so I shouldn't say that. Forgive me. But Nancy and Paul, it might get interesting. Again, are the gloves coming off? People see this and they go, this is crazy. It's called insider trading. It's called inside information. You can't do this in the United States of America. You can't have power in Congress and be giving stock tips to people. I mean, just doesn't. So they actually are putting in some legislation, and I look forward to that happening. But we'll also see if there's a reckoning of sorts. Okay, 242. Kash Patel did comment on the James Comey. I talked about the judge that reversed this indictment. And he said, stay tuned for right after Thanksgiving. You'll see responses. We have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all. So just a heads up, it's now shortly after Thanksgiving. Expect to see something on Comey. Let's go to the next one. So the raid of Mar-a-Lago, again, here's, I think it's Jason Chaffetz commenting with Maria Bartiromo there, and they're talking about a document, an ICA report that is there's an accusation, there's an allegation that the reason Mar-a-Lago was raided was to retrieve a damning ICA report that was damning of Barack Obama in relationship to the whole effort, which Tulsi Gabbard has described as trying to overthrow the government. Is that true? I don't know, but it's something that's hat tip Real Robert on X. Let's go to the next one. This is hat tip Joshua Hall on X. They're talking about the former Obama administration officials that are cooperating apparently with the U.S. Attorney's Office as they look at this whole thing and this seditious conspiracy case. Again, this sounds like, alien stuff, I know. And 15 or 20 years ago, we'd have thought, oh, come on. Not anymore. Sedition? Who's even used the word sedition? And I haven't used the word. We're talking about actual sedition. These 6 congressmen and Mark Kelly, senator, the video they put out, arguably is sedition. So a new word we're using now in America, unfortunately, is sedition. And so this cleansing process, we need to cleanse the corruption. And we need to look at what's happened and take action so that it doesn't happen again. And if there's no consequences, there's no love. You heard that? If you raise a kid and the Bible says if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. If you don't have consequences for a child, you're actually not loving them. If we love America, there needs to be consequences for people that are trying to do things to hurt America, or to change America in a very negative way, which is what's happened as they've spent their entire lives over the last 10 years trying to take down Donald Trump. There's been a lot of illegal activity, a lot of conspiring, and getting to the bottom of it is love. Getting to the bottom of it's not retribution, payback. No. It's justice. It's clarity, and it's consequences. And people have to face consequences. That's love. That's love for America to say, no, you don't get to do that to our country. We don't do that in America. We don't steal elections in America. And if you're involved in that, you should face consequences because that's not who we are. We're a free people of 250 years, and you're not going to ruin it for us. We got 250 years invested in this grand experiment called America, the greatest country ever on the planet. And you don't get to try to ruin the whole thing or take us down because you don't like Donald Trump. How about that? Am I getting too angry?
No, you're doing.
Thank you. Producer says I'm not too angry. Continue. J6 committee, where are we? Yes. So here's the, I already talked about this, but this is probably a list of people at the bottom there that I would not want to be stranded on an island with, just as a side note. Nancy Pelosi, Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Mark Milley, and others. And I think that what's happening is, number one, they're looking at all these pardons and a lot of executive orders saying, well, if the auto pen signed them all, and by the way, some of the auto pen signatures happened while Joe Biden was out of the country. Just if you didn't know that. It's all going to be pieced together. Some of the auto pen happened while Joe Biden was out of the country. That's documented. If Joe Biden truthfully didn't know about these things, then, is it subject to being looked at and looked at by a judge, which I think it eventually will. But the preemptive pardon thing, talk about a bad idea. I don't know how we have it. How is it possible to give preemptive pardon? Everybody, our heads are spinning at the time going, what? A preemptive pardon? Why? Oh, because Trump goes after his enemies. No, he didn't. Actually, 2017, look at the record. They say Trump goes after his enemies. Go back and look at 2017. He didn't go after Hillary Clinton. He didn't go after Barack Obama. He didn't go after anybody. But you're worried that he's going to. Why? Because you're guilty. He didn't go after his opponents, and you have no track record to speak of on that. You're the ones that go after people's political opponents. That's what we're saying. The rules for radicals. Accuse them of what you're doing. They're accusing Trump of going after political opponents, even though he never has. And they're giving preemptive pardons in case he does. Why? Because they're guilty. So I think it needs to be looked at. Are these pardons valid? Is all these executive orders valid? Who was running the country? Who was making these decisions? We don't know. But here's another winner. Over the weekend, Mark Kelly, I think he was on Meet the Depressed, and he was saying Tim Walz. Tim Walz, who, by the way, there's a couple $2 billion missing in Minnesota. That's about to come out. And Tim Walz is blaming Donald Trump somehow today for that. But point is, Tim Walz is on the Sunday program saying that Donald Trump, we need to look at his MRI. He's not fit to be president. Something's wrong with him, right? Okay. Donald Trump is a machine. Donald Trump is a specimen. Donald Trump doesn't sleep. He works. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. This man works and works and works. He's 79 years old. He works, and the only thing he does for fun, I think, is golf occasionally. He's accomplished more in 10 or 11 months than probably any president in history. And we're just coming off of a guy that was in bed at 4 o'clock, I think. And did they ever question Joe Biden's fitness? No, he was good. No, everything's fine. And then Trump comes in, who's an absolute machine. He's the workhorse, and he's the smartest president we've ever had. And this guy has laid down his life for the United States of America. They tried to kill him. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to go after his family. He's laid down his life because he loves America so much, right? And they want to say he's not fit. The same people that said nothing about Biden. Biden's wandering in the woods. Asleep at 4. God love him. I don't even blame him. I have real problem with his family and friends that did this to him. And they put him up sad. But Tim Walz, what in the world? It's dishonest is not even the right word. It's beyond dishonest. It's so corrupt, dishonest, obviously untrue. And so when these people get on the Sunday shows and they want to say stuff like that, take a mental note. They have nothing to talk about. They have no ideas. None. They're still going after Trump. Oh, you got an MRI. Something must be wrong. The doctor says, no, everything's great. Abdomen, heart, we did an MRI, everything great. Oh, there's got to be something wrong. It's beyond frustration. We need to pray and stay calm. I'm talking to myself right now. Pray and stay calm. But it's absolutely outrageous. So everything that they're saying needs to be called into question. The J6 committee should be investigated yesterday. I believe that's happening. It should be happening. They destroyed evidence. There was nothing about the 274 FBI agents. How do you miss that detail? If you're investigating January 6th, okay, and you're putting out a report, how do you miss the detail? Chris Wray sat before Congress and said he didn't know if there were implants. He didn't know if there were embeds, whatever they call them. He didn't know. Chris Wray didn't know. No, there were 274. It's not in the report. A congressional committee was investigating January 6th, and they left out the detail that there were 274 embedded FBI agents there. Some of which I think I saw one video appeared to be breaking windows. So that's a detail. I think that's a detail that should have been included in the January 6th report. But the committee was not interested in truth, or you. They didn't actually believe that Grandma and the Buffalo Man were trying to take over the U.S. government. Let's just be clear. Grandma, and who was having a prayer meeting in the Senate, I think, and Buffalo Man with the horns were not going to take over the U.S. government. But that's what they want you to believe. Insurrection. Donald Trump sent them. No, he didn't. He said peacefully and patriotically. And we had Buffalo Man and Grandma. No weapons, no arms, no insurrection. Period. And Mike Pence, I'm sorry, this guy wants to be a hero every 4 minutes, and I'm over it, kind of. Mike Pence, good man, loyal vice president. What he's doing now, acting like he saved the Union. I'm sorry, this was not an insurrection. If you want to see an insurrection, there's 80 million, 100 million of us out here. If you wanted a real insurrection, believe me, and a lot of those people are armed of our 80, 100 million. Believe me, if they wanted to do an insurrection, it wouldn't look like it did on January 6th with Buffalo Man and Grandmas. No arms, no weapons, it would not look like that. If an actual insurrection is what we wanted to have happen. That was a picnic. And we had some embeds and some agitators, not only from the government, but from Antifa, who charged it up, had a strategy, clear strategy, and they executed it, and it worked. Changed the narrative. They impeached Trump again, and, crazy. Meanwhile, they're doing an actual insurrection behind the scenes with Obama leading. Crazy. Okay, so that's January 6th. What's going on with Tucker Carlson? Real quickly, I think, Tucker Carlson's been coming out. I love Tucker Carlson, by the way. I want to say that every time I talk about him because I love him. I've learned from him. I love that he quit drinking like I did. I just like him. He's smart. He's funny. But I don't understand what's happening right now. I'm tired of the Tucker Carlson, Mark Levin thing. I'm tired of the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz thing. As I've said in past programs, I don't get it. Why are we fighting about Nick Fuentes and Israel? Let's go get ready for 26. Let's talk about the accomplishments of the administration. I'm not Israel first. I don't know what that means. I'm a believer in Jesus. We pray for Israel. We pray for the Jewish people. We love them. Jesus happened to be Jewish. I don't know if you know that, but he was the actual Jewish carpenter. So if saying that I love Jesus and I pray for the Jewish people and care about the nation of Israel, makes me, Israel first, then I don't get it. So I truly don't understand why we're doing this. And Tucker Carlson was talking about the little red sliver. You can't really see the red sliver of Israel, but it's there. But the green is, Islam-controlled areas. And the red little tiny sliver is what we're fighting about for the last month and a half. I think it's crazy. And I think we need to get back to blocking and tackling. And again, I love Tucker Carlson, and I love Mark Levin, and I love Candace Owens, and I love Ben Shapiro. And we're all together here. I don't know Nick Fuentes. I don't know. I'm learning about Nick Fuentes. I have nothing against Nick Fuentes, but we need to join together. And if our side's divided, we're toast. So I don't get it. Continue. What are we talking about? Color Revolution. Oh no, here we are. Yeah. Well, this is some commentary. I'm going to skip this. Victor Davis Hanson, who, by the way, is one of the greatest geniuses in America today. Victor Davis Hanson. I love everything about him. I love listening to him talk. He's just made some comments on his concerns around what's happening with Tucker Carlson and some of the things that are being said. And I think it's a fair point. I'll just make one point on this. Clickbait. Some of what Candace Owens is doing, some of what you sometimes see with Tucker, sometimes I just wonder, is this a strategy for clicks and views? I mean, they're making a lot of money. Which I have no problem with. But I don't think we should be, navigating the things that we're fighting for based on clicks. So, Candace Owens, for example, here's kind of the last few weeks. Israel, and then it was, she's talking about Charlie's wife and TPUSA, and people are hiding things, and then the legacy, and then the French are coming to get her, and maybe it's true that there was a threat. I don't know, and I don't want that, and I love Candace Owens. But again, and now she's talking about the second week of December, there's supposed to be a huge attack on our country. That's what she's saying, a 9/11 style attack. Maybe there will be. I hope not. We need to pray against that, as always. Pray for peace and pray for, pray for our enemies and pray for peace. But now she's warning about that. I don't know if it'll happen or not. But this has been quite a eventful 5 weeks with Candace Owens. You can't. It's hard to keep up. We're following Egyptian planes one day, and then we're following. I get lost sometimes, but I think Victor Davis Hanson's point is, we need to be aware of clickbait. But continue. So this is Eric Metaxas. I think he posted this last night. And we're talking about this third existential crisis is what he's calling in our history. We had the revolution, we had the Civil War, and now what they're calling the color revolution. This entire thing, this entire conflict in our country that's been happening and surrounding over the last 10 years. Steve Bannon and others are talking about the color revolution. So I wanted to just touch on what is a color revolution. And so I actually dug a little bit in terms of, it has to do with, it's a term used to describe a series of political movements, usually large-scale nonviolent protests aimed at challenging or overturning an existing government, often in response to allegations of corruption, authoritarianism, or election fraud. So obviously they've been calling President Trump an authoritarian. They've been calling him a fascist. I don't think any of them know could define fascist. If you put a gun to their head, I don't think they could define fascist. Or pull aside 100 kids at these Palestinian, or whatever the latest riot of the day is. Ask them what a fascist is. See what they say. Because they certainly wouldn't be having the freedom to do with the protesting that they're doing if it was actual fascist. Donald Trump's not a fascist. Donald Trump's not an authoritarian. Donald Trump's not corrupt. The left is corrupt, not Donald Trump. Again, accuse them of what you're doing. So But a color revolution is what this is, and it's because they think Donald Trump's an authoritarian, or or he's corrupt, or he's a fascist, or whatever you want to say. They call it a color revolution because it typically comes from a color or symbol adopted by the movement, and they give some examples from history. I think there was something called the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, the Rose Revolution in Georgia, the Tulip Revolution in Kyrgyzstan in 2005. So that's why they call it the Color Revolution. So don't be confused about why is it called the color. It has nothing to do with race. It's just a color of the movement or whatever. So mass protests, civil resistance, a unified opposition movement, obviously riots and protests, like the No Kings, I guess, would be an example. So they're using media, they're using social media, they're gaining international attention and support. NGOs are involved, as we are finding out more and more. NGOs are involved to a large extent. So that's what Eric Metaxas, who I love and respect deeply, that's what Eric Metaxas is calling the third kind of existential crisis that the United States of America has faced. That's a big statement. I don't know if it's far off, to be honest with you. I mean, you think about, obviously, the Civil War, the American Revolution, to categorize this conflict in that league is a big statement. I'm thinking about it, but I'm telling you what, it's pretty bad what's happened here. Arresting political opponents, if you think about it. They really tried to kill him. I think we're going to find out a lot more about that down the road. It's really bad. And Eric Metaxas, I love and respect just about more than anybody in our as far as influencers in our country. And so it's worth thinking about, taking it that seriously. And so what does that require? Well, as you know on this program, we're about the truth. We're about prayer is our biggest weapon. Prayer is the work. Prayer is the weapon. Prayer is more important than any politicking that you could do. I think that's what happened at 24. There was an army. We prayed every Friday at noon on a Zoom call. There was an army all over the country of prayer warriors. We need to pray. We need to pursue the truth, and we need to act. And if you believe Eric Metaxas, you should take it extremely seriously. Okay, Venezuela. So there's a lot coming out about Venezuela. I'm going to go deeper on this, so I'm not going to go deep right now. But Venezuela's connection to some of the technological platforms around voting systems and the and kind of the roots and the ties to Venezuela. Now, some people are saying is that why Trump is now on the phone with Maduro and taking such aggressive action with these blowing up the drug boats and now talking about going on land? I don't know about that. I know that Maduro is completely corrupt and stole the election, just as the Democrats did in 2020 here. Can't really judge, I guess, now as a country. We're kind of in the banana republic category since we had a stolen election right here in the United States, unbelievably. Never going to happen again. That's what we need to believe. So there's some talk about this. General Flynn apparently flew to Venezuela to talk to whistleblowers, and there's the whole connection between have elections been being stolen all over the world for longer than we would care to believe, and has some of it been centered in Venezuela is what the question is. And I'll be going deeper as we learn more. Apparently Donald Trump did have a phone call with Nicolas Maduro and over the weekend. And there's I've read different reports on what happened on that call. Maduro wants complete control of the country, of course, which of course Trump, vetoed. I think Trump wants to allow a graceful exit at this point, and is giving him an opportunity. If that's a prediction from me, I don't know that to be true. But I think there's going to be a regime change. When the Democrats start screaming about that, you can remind them of regime changes that Clinton initiated and Obama and others. So, That's not new. And Nicolas Maduro is a bad guy who stole an election and has a laundry list of severe abuses and should be out of power in Venezuela. And we have Venezuelan friends who fled here from there. It's horrible. It's horrible. And that's why we're fighting so hard for our country right now, because we don't want to go down that road. It's a horrible thing. And so we will keep you posted as best we can on Venezuela and on current developments with that. The FDA has now admitted, and we'll have a slide in a second, but the FDA has now admitted that the vaccine killed children. And this oncologist, go back one if you wouldn't mind, but a lot of you know Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, brilliant. He's not doing this for the money, by the way. He's already a billionaire. So if you start to think, well, he's trying to cure cancer, so this guy's, I think, very much a straight shooter, best I can tell. And we're going to talk about his inventions and what he's working on now in relationship to cancer. But you can see in the bottom of this, he looks straight into the camera and says, when you actually biopsy these new aggressive tumors, we are finding spike protein inside the tumors. And Chris Cuomo said from COVID, and he said from COVID. And then he started talking about patients he's seeing in 2025, 10 and 11-year-olds with colon cancer, 13-year-old who died from pancreatic cancer, and so forth. So, obviously a lot of us had concerns about the vaccine. It's tragic what's happened to many people. Of course, we know about the heart issues and myocarditis and, young people and athletes dropping dead and just some real tragedies that have happened. And I think what was new this weekend was the FDA actually coming clean. We can go to the next slide. I think it's on the next slide, but the FDA now recognizing officially that vaccines have killed healthy children who were actually in no danger from COVID. I mean, the percentages, the statistics, there was no danger to children. Astronomical statistics. But then yet we've seen the vaccine kill children, and the FDA has acknowledged that. Dan Bongino's comments next is on illegal immigration, and this came out over the weekend. He was, that there are essentially, millions, whether you think it's 10 million or 20 million or 5 million, but there is obviously a barrage of illegal immigrants that have flooded the country. When Dan Bongino got into office at the FBI, he was talking about just what he's learned and what he's uncovered and how it shocked him to his core. We can't run a republic like this, he said. I'll never be the same after what I've learned. And that's Dan Bongino, who is a stand-up guy. Go to the next slide. So another thing that came out, there's a $40 million international bounty to assassinate President Trump offered to criminal illegals in our country. That was new information that the FBI has just uncovered that plot. So again, this is why we're dealing with the problem that has been caused by Joe Biden allowing in tens of millions of people that are almost universally unvetted. Because then you end up having plots like this where, somebody who has nothing to lose and doesn't care and, wants to make a name for themselves and get their family a bunch of money can all of a sudden start taking some risks and doing things that they would not otherwise do. It's unbelievable, actually. Next topic, burn bag. So Kash Patel, and we're almost done, by the way. I'm going as fast as I can. Kash Patel, at the FBI, there was these burn bags. They discovered in these kind of secret rooms, and I guess they call them burn bags, which is kind of like documents that are supposed to go away. We're not supposed to see these anymore. And Kash Patel's talked about a number of them, and apparently included in that is a classified annex from John Durham's report that we never saw. Now, I, for one, was looking forward to the Durham report. I thought, okay, here we have an independent and honest, that we can really get a clear picture of what's been happening here. And it just ended up kind of falling flat, and none of us really knew why. You know, it was kind of a nothing burger in essence. Well, maybe there was more to it that we didn't see. We'll find out soon. Are we close to curing cancer? Back to Dr. Soon Shang. This was a it was indeed hat tip Michelle Maxwell. This was indeed a jaw-dropping statement when Dr. Soon Shang's talking about the IL-15 based therapy and the results that they're getting, including among terminally ill, near-death patients, where multiple treatments had failed, and then suddenly recovered after undergoing some treatments like this IL-15. And so he's saying it's a message of true hope. And Dr. Robert Redfield, CDC director, is saying Patrick is onto something. The FDA needs to accelerate support of his efforts. We must move away from old paradigms. So this is exciting. And again, speaking of something for your prayer list, how great would it be to cure cancer or to see at least movement towards curing some cancers? Or, I mean, that's fantastic. And so, pray for that. And once again, if Donald Trump cures cancer, they'll probably impeach him. Yeah. Yeah, right. It costs too much. Something to pray for. I'm so thankful for these geniuses in medicine. It just boggles my mind how they're able to do this. And so we'll pray for them, and we'll pray that there is indeed a cure for cancer or cancers in our lifetime. Okay, AutoPen. We've already talked about it, but I'll just do one slide. So James Comer did comment on this idea of, are these, President Trump's given the directive to void all documents that were fraudulently signed with an AutoPen. And he was asked about it. James Comer, you guys, many of you know him. He's a committee chairman and a pretty influential member of Congress. And he's predicting that the courts will side with President Trump's directive in this area. Obviously, it'll be a fight, I'm sure. It'll be messy. But James Comer, for one, thinks that the courts could be favorable toward it. Hat tip the Golden Age Times on Instagram. All right, a couple more. Mike Lee. This is just an interesting, and Senator Mike Lee is one of the good guys, as you all know, and one of the really smart guys. His comment was, seems fair and balanced. When you look at the chart here of professors and how many of them are Democrats versus Republicans. If you look at this chart, does this seem healthy for you as a country? Does this seem right? I would say no. And this is the problem. This is one of them. This is one of the problems we have, is with what's happening in the next generation. And which is why it was such a miracle what happened in 2024. And we're going to see more of that by the power of God. But this is concerning. And this is why we need Charlie Kirk. And God love him, God rest his soul. And this is why now we need a whole army of Charlie Kirks to say, we're going to be on campus, we're going to have podcasts, we're going to go to the people, we're going to go to TikTok, we're going to go anywhere we need to go to tell the truth. Because believe me, they're not getting it in their college campus. They're not getting it in that classroom. You can bet on it. Just look at this. Okay? So hat tip Senator Mike Lee. $33 billion in tariff revenue in October alone. Great news. Great news. Mainstream media won't cover that. And lastly, Doge, who everybody thought was out of existence. It is not. In fact, they have removed 12.3 million scammers from the Social Security rolls. Fantastic. 12.3 million people have been removed from the Social Security system. If, and this is hat tip Mila Joy, if $1,800 a month is the average benefit, the amount of money that's being saved every month, I think it's $22 billion. according to this little math, but it's a big number, whatever it is. And so Doge, hat tip to Doge. Congratulations to Doge, to Elon Musk. What a fantastic effort to cleanse. We've been cleansing is a topic here, if you haven't recognized. What a cleansing. 12.3 million people who aren't people getting checks. Somebody's getting the checks. Have been cleansed from the system. Great news and great work by Doge. And of course, President Trump deserves a great amount of credit for that. Finally, today, sports summary. First of all, Lane Kiffin going to LSU. Sorry, you Ole Miss fans, or maybe you're happy about it. I don't know. I can't figure out if people are happy or sad now. He did get booed at the airport. They shouted him down at the airport. I don't know. He says it's not about the money, but he's getting a new deal with $13 million per year. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure if it's about the money or not. UCLA, I think, is going to hire James Madison's Bob Chesney. I think it's a great hire, by the way. This is a guy who's worked his way up from the bottom in college football. He's fantastic. I think he's 48 years old, and bright future. So UCLA could be on the upswing if Bob Chesney's able to build something strong there in Westwood. And we were able here at Good Life Media to go to the USC-UCLA rivalry game on Saturday. It was a fantastic experience. We really were able to take it all in. We were on the sideline. It was so fun. I got some amazing videos of touchdowns and plays coming right at us. And just thinking about, and they asked everybody to get their cell phone light on, so we had a little moment. But, something good about America is college football, I got to tell you. It brings so much joy to so many millions of people all over the country. And we were at the game, every age group, race, background, families, single, everybody is there. And so it's like this unifying thing. Nobody's fighting about, politics or fighting about anything. They're just for their team, And it was such a great experience. And to see this legendary rival, the Coliseum was built in 1923. This rivalry started in 1929, was the first game, USC-UCLA. So they've been going for a while. And then, of course, they had the 32 Olympics there, and then the 84 Olympics, and now the Olympics are coming in 2028. But so legendary building, legendary rivalry. USC now is 149. UCLA is 137. 7 ties. I think that's where we're at. So there was a few years they didn't play. But anyway, so it was a great experience. Great to be there. Great, just a good American tradition. Saturdays with college football, again, happens all over the country. This is by no means the oldest rivalry, by the way. If you look at like Yale and Princeton, and you go back some of the blue bloods in the Ivy League and elsewhere, they go back way back. But it's just something good that happens all over America from August through the end of the year. Of course, the bowl season. It's just a good thing about America. So since the show is called Good Life, there's something we can all get excited about. We're rooting for our team. Great competition, great spirit, great people, excellence, driving hard for success and a desire to win, which is not a bad thing. There's no participation trophies given. This is about winning, and you do everything you can, and you leave it all out there, right? And that's America. And so it was fun to have that experience. A program note, I do have some information on what's happening at Turning Point USA that we're studying and we're going to be talking about in the weeks to come. We're rooting for them. It's been a devastating thing that's happened with the loss of our friend Charlie. We're rooting for them. We're praying for them, and we want to keep you posted. Finally, we encourage viewer mail, Dean at goodlifetelevision.org. Dean at goodlifetelevision.org. You please follow us. All the platforms. We've fired up a True Social account. It's actually in my name, Dean A. Wilson, on True Social. Most of them are under Good Life or Good Life TV. The main X platform, the account is Good America One. Good America One. That's the account for the Good Life podcast. So that's the one you want to follow. It's the biggest one we have. Good America and the number 1. And subscribe at YouTube. So if you go see a video, if you go watch one of these videos, if you're watching right now, hit that subscribe button. And so you can continually get content. It's going to be great stuff, we believe, coming out. We believe this is something God wanted us to do. That's why we're doing it. And we want the best for the country, God and country. And we're so glad you're with us. I can't tell you how much it means that you're watching. And please send us a note. Want to be your friend. We're building a little community here around Good Life. We